Our story revolves around Cosmo, our family cat, who has always had a peculiar routine of sleeping in the basement. My parents were particular about keeping him there overnight, partly to avoid waking up to his 3 a.m. howling to go outside, and partly to avoid the cat hair on their bed. But recently, Cosmo's routine changed in a way that left us puzzled and, eventually, deeply uneasy. It all started a few weeks ago when Cosmo stopped going down the basement stairs. Instead of walking down as usual, he'd linger at the landing, meowing softly. At first, I brushed it off, assuming he was just getting older and crankier. But the behavior continued. Soon, he even began refusing to come into the house, preferring to curl up on the doormat outside instead. It seemed like something was keeping him away from the basement. After a few days of Cosmo's odd behavior, we finally figured out part of the mystery. The basement was infested with fleas. Despite all our efforts to clean and disinfect, the infestation didn't seem to clear up. It felt eerie, like the basement had its own secrets, things we didn't understand. Then one night, I woke up to a strange, flickering light under my bedroom door, like someone was playing with the hallway switch. I brushed it off as my dad getting up, but it went on longer than usual. I lay there, feeling unsettled but too afraid to check. A few nights later, I worked up the courage to go into the basement to investigate what was going on with the fleas. As I reached the storage room in the back, I noticed a rotting smell and heard faint, steady breathing coming from the crawl space. My heart raced, and before I knew it, I saw a shadow lunge toward me. I bolted upstairs and called the police. When they arrived, they found nothing but some empty food wrappers, indicating someone had been squatting there. We locked the basement door from that day on, but Cosmo still refuses to go anywhere near it. Frozen in place, he could feel the hairs on his neck stand up. The whispering became a murmur, shifting from one side of the room to the other, as if circling him. The cold draft intensified, and his breath turned shallow as the room felt smaller, darker. Desperate to shake the feeling, he grabbed the boxes quickly, eyes darting around to catch a glimpse of the source of the whispers. Just as he turned to climb the stairs, he heard a loud thud behind him, like something heavy had dropped or shifted in the shadows. He spun around, only to see nothing but darkness. A chill ran down his spine as he realized the whispering had stopped. Silence filled the room, more unsettling than any noise. He didn't want to risk looking back again. Bolting up the stairs, he nearly dropped the boxes as he fumbled for the door handle. When he finally burst out into the daylight, he gasped, heart still racing. His friend looked at him with a puzzled expression, asking if he'd seen anything unusual. Struggling to find the right words, he muttered, "Don't go down there alone." But later that night, as they were settling in, they heard it, the same faint whisper, this time coming from the vent in the living room, followed by the familiar chilling draft. They looked at each other in terror, realizing the basement might hold secrets that were never meant to be unearthed. From that night on, the basement stayed locked. They never spoke of it again, but every so often, when the wind was just right, the whisper would return, as if waiting for someone else to step inside. After that night, the basement became an unspoken forbidden zone. Both friends made a silent pact, never to go down there again. But the whispers didn't stay confined below. Over the next few days, strange things started happening around the house. They'd hear faint tapping sounds in the walls, see shadows flit across the corner of their vision, and feel sudden chills even with all the windows shut. One evening, they invited a few friends over, hoping that laughter and company might break the oppressive atmosphere. But as soon as their friends walked in, one of them remarked on the strange vibe of the house, saying it felt as though someone was watching from just out of sight. The two friends exchanged a worried glance but brushed it off, trying to act casual. Yet, as the evening went on, the strange occurrences escalated. Lights flickered, and the whispers returned, barely audible but enough to send chills down everyone's spines. Then, in the middle of a conversation, they all heard it, a deep, guttural voice from somewhere below, as if something was trying to claw its way up from the basement. Everyone froze, their faces drained of color. One friend nervously laughed, suggesting it was just an old house settling, but his voice shook. By the end of the night, their friends left quickly, uneasy and avoiding eye contact. The two who lived there felt trapped. They knew something had been disturbed, awakened even, and whatever it was, it didn't want them there. That night, unable to sleep, they both lay awake, listening to the sounds from the basement. The whispering was constant now, rising to an almost frantic pitch. The next day, they packed their things and left, abandoning the house without looking back. Months later, they learned that the property had a history. Previous residents had spoken of voices, of strange shadows, and of something lurking in the basement. None had lasted long. They were just the latest to flee the whispers, leaving the basement's dark secret to wait, patient and hungry for the next soul brave or foolish enough to enter. After leaving, they tried to move on, but something had changed. Both friends struggled with an uneasy feeling that the basement's influence hadn't let them go. They'd catch themselves hearing faint whispers, even miles away, and dreams plagued them, nightmares of a shadowy figure watching them from dark corners, whispering their names. One of the friends, determined to get closure, began researching the house's history. He uncovered a chilling truth. Decades ago, the basement had been the site of a horrific crime. The original owner was said to have practiced dark rituals there, and some neighbors claimed they'd seen people go in who never came out. Rumors circulated that the souls of those lost were still trapped in that basement, bound by some unspeakable force. Hoping to break the connection, they sought help from a paranormal expert. The expert listened to their story and nodded grimly, as though he had heard this before. He explained that sometimes traumatic energy could bind itself to a place, and anyone who disturbs it risks becoming part of the energy themselves. He advised a ritual of protection, something to sever the lingering connection, but warned that the entity in the basement might resist. Desperate for peace, they followed the instructions precisely, lighting candles, chanting words they barely understood, and envisioning the connection between them and the basement being broken. For a moment, there was silence. The oppressive feeling lifted, and for the first time in months, they felt free. But as they extinguished the last candle, a sudden gust of cold air swept through the room. They looked at each other, fear creeping back as the whispers faintly returned closer than before, as if they had never truly left. Frozen in fear, they stared at each other, trying to understand what went wrong. The whispers grew louder, and shadows seemed to crawl along the walls, stretching toward them. It was as though the darkness itself was alive, watching, waiting. Panic set in, and one friend grabbed his phone to call the expert, hoping he'd have answers. But as he dialed, a cold, bony hand gripped his wrist, stopping him mid-motion. Terrified, he looked down, but no one was there. Just the imprint of icy fingers lingering on his skin. It's not over," he whispered, eyes wide. The other friend looked around, realizing they might have only angered whatever was in that basement. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered, casting eerie shadows on their faces. A deep, guttural voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once, whispering, "You came to my home ... and you never left." In a frenzy, they ran out of the house, but even outside, the feeling of being followed wouldn't leave. The air seemed thick, pressing in on them like invisible hands. They got into the car and drove, watching the house disappear into the distance. But as they glanced in the rearview mirror, the faint outline of the shadowy figure was visible, standing in the middle of the road, watching them vanish into the night. The haunting continued for weeks. The nightmares, the whispers, the cold touches, it all followed them, no matter how far they ran. They tried to live normal lives, but every quiet moment was filled with the dreadful sensation that something was watching, waiting to drag them back. Eventually, one of the friends couldn't take it anymore. He returned to the house alone, hoping to confront the entity, to beg for peace, or perhaps to end it all. The next morning, the police found his car abandoned outside the house, the doors wide open. Inside, the air was as cold and still as it had been that first day they ventured into the basement. He was never seen again. The second friend, now left alone, remains haunted to this day, plagued by the memories of that dark basement and the unspeakable presence they awakened. He tells the story to anyone who will listen, a warning to those curious souls who think they can escape the darkness. Because once you invite it in, it may never let you go. And that wraps up these 3 disturbing true basement horror stories. But remember, there are countless tales of terror hiding just beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed. If you thought these stories were spine-chilling, just wait for what I have coming next. Stories so haunting, they'll linger in your mind long after the lights go out. So, if you dare, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and be the first to join me as we delve deeper into the shadows. Until next time, keep the lights on. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are closer than you think.